Hello everyone, and welcome back to The Millionaire. I hope you're all having a great day wherever you are in this great world. We've got a lot to talk about today, and I want to start right here because this is a big one. Blackrock Xrp partner Security Eyes, which is working closely with Ripple, has made it clear that Ripple's vision is to tokenize the world. Let that sink in for a moment. Maybe this is why Blackrock Xrp never filed for a spot XRP Etf. Maybe the real play isn't an ETF at all, but instead bringing massive amounts of tokenized real-world assets onto the XRP Ledger. And here's the thing I know for sure. Once real-world assets truly start coming on board the XRP Ledger, the numbers are going to add up fast. We're not talking billions. We're talking trillions upon trillions of dollars. The XRP Ledger was literally built for this. It was designed from day one for fast settlement, low fees, and large-scale tokenization. And as that value flows in, XRP holders aren't just looking at life-changing money. They're looking at financial freedom. Imagine trillions of dollars in tokenized assets moving across the XRP ledger every single day. That's the long-term vision. A lot of people still don't fully grasp. Now, before we go any further, let me say this. If you're serious about positioning yourself early, this is where the 100X Club comes in. Inside the 100X Club, you get exclusive weekly stock alerts for potential 100X opportunities, crypto insider alerts, a millionaire mindset designed to help you build generational wealth, and top 1% positioning strategies that most people never even hear about. This is about putting yourself where the smart money is before the crowd shows up. If that sounds like something you want to be part of, it's in the pinned comment. Now, let's get back to it because the next story is absolutely wild. It appears that the SDNY and the Department of Justice have sold Bitcoin that the Samurai Wallet developers paid as part of their plea deal. This is important because Executive Order Quarantine 233 mandates that forfeited Bitcoin is supposed to be held in the U.S. Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, yet they sold it anyway. This wasn't some small amount either. They sold roughly $6.3 million worth of Bitcoin, and this isn't even the first time in the Samurai case that the SDNY has acted in defiance of federal guidance. As you can imagine, people are furious about this. Bitcoin maxes are losing their minds right now, especially Senator Cynthia Lummis. She came out and said, why is the U.S. government still liquidating Bitcoin when President Trump explicitly directed these assets be preserved for our strategic Bitcoin reserve? We can't afford to squander strategic assets while other nations are accumulating Bitcoin. She says she's deeply concerned by the report. But let's slow this down and add some context. First of all, these other countries everyone keeps talking about are not racing to accumulate Bitcoin. That narrative keeps getting pushed, but it's not reality. People keep saying we need to compete with China when it comes to Bitcoin. China is not stacking Bitcoin. China is stacking gold. Many other countries are stacking gold as well. Gold has been a strategic asset for thousands of years. Bitcoin, in my opinion, is not a strategic asset. It's not a store of value in the way people claim. And it's certainly not digital gold. If it were truly digital gold, governments wouldn't be dumping it every chance they get. Now, shifting gears, let's talk about regulation, because once again, we're seeing more talk and not enough action. Crypto Khazar David Sachs has been holding talks with senators to advance a crypto market structure bill. More talks, more meetings, more closed-door discussions. But what do we actually have to show for it? Nothing concrete yet. We need action. We need something passed already. This update comes from Elena Terrett, who shared details about a closing offer documented and published by Politico. According to the report, there are 6 major items that still appear to be outstanding issues. These were being hashed out during a meeting attended by a mix of 13 Democrats and Republicans, along with David Sachs and Patrick McHenry. And from what attendees are saying, it doesn't sound like everything was resolved. There's still a lot of work left to do. One issue in particular stands out to me, and that's yield. Whenever you see lawmakers battling over yield, you can be sure the banks are behind it. Banks do not want people earning yield on stablecoins, period. Because the moment everyday people can earn real yield outside the traditional banking system, the banks lose control. Why would anyone keep their money in a checking or savings account earning less than 1% when they could earn yield on chain? This is the real threat to the legacy financial system. It's not Bitcoin, it's not memes, it's not speculation. It's yield, tokenization, and financial rails that don't require banks in the middle. That's exactly why the XRP Ledger matters. That's why Ripple matters. And that's why real-world asset tokenization is such a big deal. When you connect all these dots, you start to see the bigger picture. Institutions like Blackrock don't move without a plan. Governments don't stall regulation by accident. Banks don't fight yield unless they're afraid. Everything happening right now points toward a future where tokenized assets, blockchain rails, and compliant digital infrastructure dominate the global financial system. And the XRP Ledger is positioned right in the center of that shift. Most people are still distracted by price charts and short-term noise. Meanwhile, the real wealth is built by those who position early, understand the narrative, and act before the crowd. That's how financial freedom is created. That's how generational wealth is built. And that's exactly why these conversations matter. Imagine taking money out of a checking or savings account, putting it into a stable coin, and collecting 4 to 6% yield. Just think about that for a second. That right there is exactly why they can't seem to agree on this issue. The banks do not want that to happen. And the politicians pushing back on this are, in my opinion, completely in the pockets of big banking interests. That's the reality. If everyday people suddenly have the option to earn real yield without a bank in the middle, the entire traditional banking model starts to fall apart. So it should come as no surprise that yield continues to be one of the biggest sticking points preventing this market structure bill from getting passed. And honestly, I'm tired of it. Everyone's tired of it. We've had endless talks, endless meetings, endless discussions. At some point, you need to stop talking about it and actually get something done already. Now let's move on to something that really caught my attention. CNBC is now saying that XRP is the hottest crypto trade of this year. Let that sink in. CNBC, mainstream financial media. I've been telling you for a long time that there would come a moment when they could no longer avoid talking about XRP, and it looks like that moment is here. Take a listen to this. They literally said the hottest crypto trade of the year is not Bitcoin, it's not Ethereum, it's XRP. XRP is up more than 20% this year and has become the third largest cryptocurrency by market cap. And they also pointed out that there is big money behind this move. That's a key detail a lot of people gloss over. This isn't just retail traders piling in. There's serious capital driving this trade. And here's the reason XRP is going to continue to outperform the broader market. It's not just because people are buying XRP and hoping number go up. It's because companies are buying XRP and actually using it. XRP has real utility. Bitcoin has no utility. And Ethereum, let's be honest, has become nearly unusable for many real-world applications because the gas fees are insane. Companies don't want to deal with unpredictable, expensive transaction costs. That's exactly why more and more companies are now looking past both Bitcoin and Ethereum and focusing their attention on XRP. XRP was designed for payments. It was designed for liquidity. It was designed to move value quickly, cheaply, and at scale. Once we really start to see institutional adoption kick in, watch how fast the narrative changes. The mainstream media is going to have no choice but to continue talking about XRP, whether they like it or not. Now let's talk about another big topic that keeps coming up, the Ripple IPO. Every single day I see people online saying the IPO is next. The IPO is happening next week. The IPO is happening next month. But this comes straight from Monica Long at Ripple. And it clears things up pretty clearly. Ripple is not rushing to go public. She said, currently, we still plan to remain private. Often the strategy driving an IPO is to get access to investors and liquidity. We are in a really healthy position to continue to fund and invest in our company's growth without going public. That's a big statement. It tells you Ripple is not desperate for capital. They're not desperate for exposure. They're already well positioned. So once again, an IPO is not happening anytime soon. Most likely, if it happens at all, we're talking 2027 or beyond. I don't see it happening in 2026. And honestly, that's not a bad thing. Ripple staying private allows them to stay focused on building, expanding partnerships, and rolling out real-world use cases without the pressure of quarterly earnings and public market noise. Now, I want to talk about something that's extremely important as we move forward, especially for XRP holders. There are already so-called experts out there saying everything is playing out exactly as predicted. Everyone wants to take credit for calling the breakout, but I want you to listen closely here, because the same people who are bragging about calling the breakout are going to be the same ones trying to call the top on the way up. You do not want to fall for that this cycle. Once XRP starts to go truly parabolic, there will still be pullbacks along the way. That's normal. That's how markets work. But when I say I don't expect a major pullback in 2026, I'm talking about a massive blow-off top followed by an 80 or 90% crash. I'm not seeing that this time around. And here's why. XRP's utility is going to help support the price. Institutional adoption is going to help support the price. And the catalysts we are still waiting on for XRP are not one-time events. They are things that are going to continue playing out throughout this year and into next year. That changes the entire structure of the market. Even the guy with the so-called 276 IQ is out there saying, as predicted, everybody wants to take credit. But what really matters is how you react when things get emotional. Because here's exactly what's going to happen. XRP will start running. It will enter price discovery. Then you'll see the first slight pullback and people will start screaming, take profit now. Then it'll go higher. Another small pullback, take profit. Now everyone wants to be that guy who called the top. And this is where most people mess it up. Instead of panicking on every pullback, you need to zoom out and look at what's actually happening in the real world. Look at real world events. Look at ETF inflows if and when they start happening. Look at tokenization. Tokenization is going to be a major theme in 2026 and beyond. Trillions of dollars in assets don't move overnight. But once they start moving, they don't stop easily either. XRP isn't just a chart. It's infrastructure, it's rails, it's liquidity. And that's why this cycle looks very different from previous ones. In past cycles, it was mostly speculation. This time we're seeing real use cases, real partnerships, and real institutional interest lining up at the same time. So when you hear people screaming to sell on every dip, ask yourself this: what has actually changed? Has the utility disappeared? Has institutional adoption stopped? Has tokenization been canceled? If the answer is no, then you need to think very carefully before letting emotions dictate your decisions. This is how wealth transfers happen. Not by timing every single top and bottom perfectly, but by understanding the bigger picture and having the patience to let it play out. XRP's story is still unfolding. And if you're paying attention, you can see that the pieces are finally starting to come together in a very big way. And then you've got to look at everything else happening behind the scenes with Ripple. Are they talking about more acquisitions? Are banks actually starting to custody crypto now? Is XRP running on these new financial rails? There's so much more you need to consider before even thinking about taking profit on your XRP. This isn't just about charts or short-term swings. It's about understanding the infrastructure that's being built and the massive opportunities it opens up. This is not financial advice. This perspective comes from Barry C. And it's a really great way to put things into context. Right now, people are focused on XRP prices like $2, assuming they'll always have access to cheap XRP. And there's this narrative spreading like we'll never go above $3 again. But think about what happens as XRP climbs. At $3, most people won't be impressed. Only $3? Really? They'll say at $5, they'll start questioning, is this really the asset that's supposed to change the financial system? At $10 to $20, a small voice in the back of their head will say, maybe this is as high as it goes, but at least I didn't miss $100. Now imagine $100 per XRP. That's when FOMO really kicks in. People who ignored it at $2 will now have to pay 50 times more for the same digital asset. At $1,000 per XRP, it's not FOMO anymore. It's desperation. People will do whatever they can to own even a small piece of the new financial system. And at $10,000 per XRP, there's complete resignation, defeat, and frustration. That's when people realize just how badly they fumbled the greatest wealth building opportunity of a lifetime. For the XRP holders, the army that accumulated and held with discipline and patience, you will be rewarded. That's just how the narrative unfolds. But here's the key. Many will panic and sell at $10, $15, $20, expecting a major crash based on previous cycles. History only repeats until it doesn't. And I believe this is the year it won't repeat because speculation is no longer the narrative. Utility is. And we're no longer talking about just retail hype. Institutions are entering the conversation, recognizing real-world use cases and tangible value. Once we reach $100 per XRP, many will be shocked. That price point was once unimaginable to holders, yet XRP is built to reach 4 or 5-digit levels over time. What excites me even more is watching banks come out of the testing phase. That will be a major catalyst for price clarity. Right now, there's speculation around what XRP will trade at. And while some insiders claim to have a sense of that number, nothing is confirmed until banks are fully live on the network. Will 2026 be the year all of this happens? We don't know yet. But one thing is certain, a liquidity crisis is looming, and banks will need a solution. XRP is designed to solve that problem. It's built for speed, scale, and real-world utility. Until that moment arrives, the key for investors is patience, discipline, and strategic positioning. Stay focused, stay positive, and remember that this is a marathon, not a sprint. Now, if you want to truly position yourself for the biggest opportunities in crypto and stocks, this is where the 100x Club comes in. Membership gives you exclusive weekly stock alerts for potential 100x opportunities, insider crypto alerts, strategies for building generational wealth, and guidance on positioning yourself like the top 1%, essentially giving you tools to 100x your wealth over time. It's simple, actionable, and designed for anyone ready to take their financial future seriously. The link is in the pinned comment below. With that said, I want to wrap up this video. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate every single one of you, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay patient, stay disciplined, and let's build real wealth.